I'm Alan Robin, and I'm sitting here with my partner, Mr. Earl Dowd.
Good evening.
And also with Mr. Westbrook Van Voorhees, Mr. John St. Ledger, and Mr. John Cameron Swayze. And the five of us are going to conduct a series of simulated press conferences. We've taken the actual recorded voices of the president and other prominent political people, and we put their answers with questions entirely of our own making.
Well, why did we ever do a thing like that?
Well, I don't know, but I think it sounds much more interesting this way.
Being fascinated by the simple magic of how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there wasn't even in that at that time. I don't think there was that kind of experimentation in America. Maybe you know
Right.
the Pythons. I think overseas had. Are we talking? Or, okay.
Might as well. I started recording because I figured, we're going to
Okay, all right. Yeah, you know, I think that that even though it's a very simple gimmick and it wouldn't take a lot to, you know, to necessarily get this together, except to acquire in some way for use the audio clips, and I don't know, that might have been before the copyright. Who was it Gerald Ford, right? That did the copyright law. I think.
Oh, right. Good point.
So you might have just had this stuff out there.
Yeah.
And people could do whatever they wanted to with it. But, okay, so should we identify what it is we're talking about?
We probably should, and I should probably identify you so people
it was
know who you are.
the Earl Dowd, and who was the other guy? Something Robin?
Something Robin, yep. Mm-hmm.
Alan Robin.
Alan Robin.
Project called Welcome to the LBJ Ranch, which was a comedy LP. LPs being the large black circular things that your parents had that produced audio. And they made it by getting a bunch of people who, I think John Cameron Swayze, am I right? I'm almost sure he was one of them.
He's in there somewhere.
Yeah, he's there with his glasses on. And so they all sound like real news people because they sort of were.
Right.
And then they ask questions, but they had these pre-recorded things, so they married funny. It depends on what part. What part is the comedy? Do you think that's Jason? That's interesting. Is it the question or the? It's the serendipity of the two that makes the gag. But which is the actual? So a thing that was never meant to be a punchline becomes a punchline.
Yeah.
There's probably something mildly interesting afoot there if you think about it for a moment. Because I think that's not dissimilar to people's enjoyment of old, bad movies with bad.
That's a good point.
Like bad sci-fi dialogue and
stuff that's unintentionally funny, but I mean here they force it to be funny. They find they. I mean, even some of the jokes are really forced, but for the most part, you know, they're like. And because the first time I ever heard, first of all, I should introduce you. This is Steve Stajich with me. You're you know. Probably should have said that at the beginning, but comedy writer Steve Stajich is in. We're in. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting yourself into your home, and then inviting us into your home.
Yes, I slept on the lawn, and then I called myself this morning and gave myself permission to come in.
But the first time I ever heard anything like this, because you know I was a young kid, I saw Good Morning Vietnam. They do that whole bit where Robin Williams' character is cutting in, I think, Nixon stuff. Is it Nixon? Yeah. So he does that, but it's mostly, you know, cock humor, mostly about balls. And
really?
Yeah.
There's
a little bit. Yeah, right. I know. Isn't that shocking?
Yeah, I can't believe it.
And then
who else knows about this?
But I've never heard anything this early. I don't know. Was this being done in your knowledge? I mean, what's?
Well, to my knowledge, I can't remember. What I know about comedy records is these efforts, these kinds of things. And then Bob Newhart. That's what we had at our house. And I'm not so sure that it wasn't a. It certainly was a profitable thing for these records to be popular. Here's the synergy as I see it. Okay, so especially Bob Newhart in a nightclub recording a monologue. You're at, what's your top dollar cost for that session? $56?
Right.
Okay, so your actual product is produced for virtually nothing. Versus doing 2 weeks of sessions with Barbra Streisand or whatever you want to put it against, or buying Tony Bennett even a hotel room while he's in town to sing. So then you had a wonderful synergy with radio. Radio wants to have, at that time, funny spots or something that's not music.
Yeah.
To have a competitive feeling, especially on morning shows.
Yeah.
Even then. Now, this is before morning shows got zany.
You're right.
They used to be kind of mildly informative and mildly amusing, and then they got zany. And then that's when we had morning zoos, and then everything just completely deteriorated. But so you've got radio. These people, the comedy albums are out. The radio's playing them with regularity. Maybe one little piece a morning or something like that, especially if the record is new. And it just drives people to go buy it.
Yeah.
And they do. Also, things were, they were relatively, LPs were not, they were not expensive. What I don't think really occurred to people about long playing records in the time that they were happening was to collect them. I think that came later.
Sure.
I don't think people said, I'm building a library of people had their Harry Belafontes or somebody like that. There was it's funny, you could probably put this together as like a little menu in people's houses, but they had like some exotic person or something that they like to listen to for folk or music from Trinidad or something. Like, look at us, especially the homes I'm guessing you and I grew up in. See, so here we have, these are people this is a new folk group, the People of Color, singing songs of freedom.
Right.
And then you had some comedy records, and then maybe jazz and so forth. And my mother's thing was folk music, and she had folk music and Harry Belafonte, who kind of was pulled into the folk thing.
Right.
So, but I don't think people really thought about building, like guys like you and I probably own a lot of DVDs, LPs, CDs. I see having CDs now, since the thing has happened with the file sharing and so forth, I see having CDs now as a kind of weird sort of wealth, where in a I think of everything in post-nuclear terms, like how we're going to use water as money, and I think we're going to use CDs and DVDs as some kind of currency, and people will, whoever has a way to get, a solar-powered or a 12-volt battery-powered DVD player, they'll collect. Did you ever see the the movie? It's kind of a classic sci-fi flick with who was the guy in Don, who was in Miami Vice?
Don Johnson?
Don Johnson's very young, and it's called A Boy and His Dog. You ever heard that title?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, so in that post-nuclear future, people come with like canned food that they've dug out of the ashes or whatever. So if you have a can of cream corn, then you get to stay and watch the movie that night. Which at that time they showed as an actual 16mm thing playing, and of course it was like an instructional film of some sort, but this was what was going on in the post-nuclear world of the Don Johnson movie.
Gentlemen, who are we scheduled to interview next?
I've been waiting around now for 3 weeks.
Of course. Our next guest is the junior senator from New York. Senator, first we'd like to welcome you here today. We hope this will be a happy interview.
No, well, I don't think that would be, I doubt if it will be.
Senator, as the father of 9 children and a devoted family man, we'd like to thank you for taking the time out to come and speak with us here.
I'm delighted to see so many grown-ups all in one room.
We continue the questioning with Mr. Swayze.
Senator, I wonder if we might switch for just a moment and
keep the door open.
Well, sir, we normally close the door for silence, you understand.
I'm in favor of keeping the door open.
All right, we'll keep the door open.
Thank you very much.
Anyhow, where were we? Okay, so comedy records.
Uh-huh.
And then I think they've kind of gone away. You know, I
Sure.
think that... are you aware of any large-selling... I mean, even Eddie Murphy's movie receipts were bigger than CDs of him talking.
No,
right?
it's true. And I was the interview I did yesterday, we were talking about kind of the same thing. Is like they disappear. I mean, some people say the podcasts have taken over, which is cool and everything, but it's not. There's no production value necessarily to all of them. You know, you're not spending this decided amount of time and amount of money and amount of effort to put together this one thing you want to represent you. So
Right.
that's the big difference, and I think that's kind of a mistake to trying to find that correlation between the two. But like, no, it's all, if it's comedy albums, it's either stand up or it's going to be Weird Al, and Weird Al, you know, I think it sells him. You know, he still like somehow stays relevant. And, you know,
Just a couple of quick things on him. Mm-hmm. Because I ended up opening like 3 shows for Weird Al.
really,
Well, he had 2 shows. I think it was 2 shows in Denver, and then there's a nearby town called Fort Collins, and I think I was invited there. This is when I was a stand-up, and and I got to do that because Weird Al's audience is the mean age is like 8 at that time, anyhow.
oh yeah,
Yeah, they were very young kids who were. I mean, now maybe he goes out and does shows, and those people have grown up, and
Yeah.
they go, and now his average fan is older simply by mere dint of time passing. But at that time, so I got to do those shows because I was a comic who could do 20 minutes without saying anything that bothered parents or
Right.
upset anybody, and I had hilarious bits about Star Trek, just to give you an idea of how fresh my territory was. So anyhow, but this is all I wanted to get to was, so having watched him do like 3 shows, speaking of 16mm film, he took 16mm films of some of his stuff and some pieces that were sort of not available. This was all pre-internet, so you didn't have this stuff to look at over and over and over again.
Sure.
On YouTube, so if you wanted to see his videos or whatever, however you had seen them the first time, but where I'm going is the guy does a great show. Have you ever seen him live?
yes, once.
Yeah.
Or
And
should
it's
have seen him
really like, weren't you kind of impressed?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of
It's the biggest show I've ever seen.
energy. It's a lot of energy.
You know,
Yeah.
and I've seen you too, and I'm more impressed by what he does with quick
that's
change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they can do a lot of lights, a lot of pyrotechnics, and I get it. Bono's sexy and has a lot of great stuff to say. But Weird Al, still doing a quick change impresses me. Maybe because I'm a vaudevillian at heart, but that's
Right.
still it blows my mind.
It's like a live, I don't know that anybody takes a live variety show out on the road.
Yeah.
Well, we get the Book of Mormon, and it has a lot of blinking lights, and we get musicals that have expensive sets that travel in trucks, I guess. But I don't know that anybody takes a big variety show out and then does it.
I think it's going to make a comeback out of necessity.
Well, now I guess circuses are going away.
That's
All
interesting.
the last 2 weeks, there's all this stuff. There's not going to be any more animals in circuses.
Yeah.
We're going to get rid of animals in circuses. And then here in Santa Monica, there's somebody who wants to not have them bring the ponies for the children to ride.
Really?
Because it's too sad for the ponies to walk around in a circle. And it's fine, except it seems to presume a certain understanding of what ponies dream about. Like you must have some knowledge that ponies go to sleep at night going, if I could only walk in a straight line, if I could only, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's gonna turn out. But animal consciousness. But anyhow, Weird Al does a great show. That was the point of that. I'm not sure. Are we on any sort of theme yet? I don't know.
No, not really, but that's fine. That's what's
then
important.
Let's go back to the Dowd albums, and I'll just quickly talk about what happened was Pat McCormick, who's sort of this almost mythological figure of comedy. He was this large man, sometimes with big sideburns and a mustache that made him look almost... some may know him from playing a character in the Smokey and the Bandits movies, where he was the guy that Smokey set up the bet with.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's kind of a heavy-set, tall, heavy-set kind of guy with a kind of, as I say, sort of turn-of-the-century kind of look or something. And what happened was Pat McCormick was a consultant on a show where I got a job to be a consultant. And consultants were people who basically came up with jokes that were made to later look like somebody had thought of them right that moment on television, to do funny hosting or whatever. And I don't even remember the show now. It seems like it was something. I think it might have been a show that involved stunts or people candid camera type stunts or something. There's been like 100 of those that have totally come and gone away.
Sure.
But anyhow, Pat McCormick says, I'm going to do, we're going to get together, we're going to write jokes for the new Earl Dowd LP. And as I say, my recollection is it was about Reagan. I think it was Welcome to the Ronald Reagan Ranch or something like that. Okay. Because Reagan did they both actually had ranches. Oh God, I would love to so be better at describing the moment of the process. But what happens is Dowd gets a large room at just a regular like hotel room, and some of us were sitting on the beds, and some of us had chairs at the Sportsman's Lodge, which is known for some reasons it has some significance in comedy circles in LA. I don't know what it is.
I don't either, but it's
people go there to play card games or something. I think.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of business. So at that time, Earl Dowd was in a wheelchair, but he was quite the. I remember thinking he was kind of a George Schlatter type. It just seemed like somebody who could keep things moving and get things going and produce. And what he would do is he would gather a bunch of comedy people into these rooms and have them write jokes. And he'd say, okay, jokes for Reagan, jokes for Nancy Reagan, jokes for the press secretary, or, jokes for this senator, jokes for that senator. And all these guys, and what happens, when you get comedians together is they inevitably play Can You Top This?
Of course.
And so he's the beneficiary of that because they'll all, but good Lord, there were people, first of all, I'm there with Pat McCormick, so Pat McCormick brings me to this thing.
Yeah.
Now I walk in the room, there's Earl Dowd, whose records I listened to as a kid. On my parents' Steelman was the name of it, a hi-fi stereo that they had, which was it was a stereo that was a box. So it's like stereo sound, but the speakers are roughly 7 inches apart from each other. So you had to have a very tiny skull in order to appreciate the true stereo. And then Bill Dana was in there.
Really?
And I had listened to him again on radio, on a small radio in our kitchen on cold mornings before going to school back in Milwaukee. I'd listened to Bill Dana as the radio station played his Jose Jimenez astronaut. He had one about being an astronaut who didn't really want to go to outer space, and it was huge. I mean, this is way before you start talking about any of the aspects of that character, or whether that was the proudest moment for Hispanic people. Bill Dana's triumphant Jose Jimenez character. But in either case, and I can't think of other people in the room. There were guys who, again, were famous for being comedy writers, and this was at the moment where probably in about 5 years, Johnny Carson was going to retire. So I felt like I was somebody had driven up it was like on its way to the Smithsonian was this collection of guys who used to be the old comedy hierarchy, and now they're in a room. And then the only other thing I wanted to add to that is he paid everybody in cash.
Really?
And I don't know what that's about. I got some suspicions that it's about keeping it off taxes. But he paid everybody in cash. Everybody got like an envelope of cash. He was even counting some of it in front of, okay, that one's ready to go. Somebody's helping him pass out these envelopes of cash to everybody who's in the room. And it was favored nations. Everybody got the same amount of money.
Okay.
And I don't remember, but I did contribute because I remember that Pat McCormick said, "You made me look good." the next day or 2 days afterwards. And I thought, wow, I'll never, I thought two things at once. One, I'll never forget that. Two, with the exception of you two guys, there's probably nobody else who can appreciate that story in the universe. Who was it again? Yeah, Pat McCormick, and I made him. Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, really? Huh. Did you ever meet anybody? That anybody's ever
real?
heard?
That's how people always are.
What about Michael Jackson? He used to live. Didn't he used to live out in L.A.?
Senator, it is our pleasure to speak with you here tonight. As Republican Minority Leader in the Senate, your views on affairs of state and on the political scene are always in demand. Senator, what's new?
Well, if I gave you a direct answer, it would be almost a prejudgment of an issue on which testimony is still to be taken.
Senator, your political flamboyance is such that when coupled with your flowery oratory, there are those among the opposing party who say that you are actually nothing but a buffoon.
I do not disagree.
So that was the experience of that, and I think that it was as I say, I think you were watching a thing. I think I was watching. You sort of feel like you're on either a precipice or a corner of time, if you will, where things are about to turn and go another way.
Yeah,
and they did. And
did that album happen? I mean, it's not this one, is it? I mean, is it The First Family Rides Again or no? Because that's what
Is that Reagan?
Yeah, this is Reagan. Yeah, that's well, this is 1981 though, so this is like just bang early. They must have written that one in 80 though. So that's why I was curious.
And
because
is he representing? No,
not it.
No, I think this was later. I didn't get out here until 90.
Oh, okay. So he was working on
before. Yeah, this would have been before.
So he was working on another. Do you know if it came out then? Because I need to find that.
I can't tell you.
That
and
hurts my
also,
brain.
I think.
Okay.
Oh, Melanie. This is interesting. Melanie Chertoff, who I sometimes swap emails with.
It's great. It's the interesting, like, new generation of people on that one. And, well, not that Rich Little was a young man at the time, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But well, first of all, I need to see if that album exists, and I need to find it and see if you got any credit. Probably didn't, right?
No, he couldn't do
that.
He couldn't do
Right?
that. And also on the part of the American people, there was just, I think, a general magic to comedy writing in those days. I mean, what people cared about was they would say, "Did you see such and such last night?"
Yeah,
and they just cared about the celebrity or the personality, and there wasn't really that the stuff came from anybody.
Sure.
And that anybody cared about that. Now we sort of have this consciousness a little bit more about who makes the television shows and who's behind them, and people, a lot of people, just as a lot of people know about the weekend box office totals, they know that sitcoms have a room where people gather, and
right.
So there's been more marketing of the of the so-called behind the scenes. I don't know. Once you've gone behind the scenes, there's no more going. I don't know where else you can go home with people maybe and watch them take a bath. I don't know what.
Or you could do a podcast in their house, in their kitchen.
Yes.
That's what I do.
An enormous invasion of privacy, and I'm calling the police right now.
So, I mean, I'm assuming you don't. It's one of those things where you're just knocking at jokes, and it probably just goes by, and you don't remember.
What you did is when you had a room full of people, you could say, well, what if this or that Reagan and then that Nancy Reagan this or something like that. And then someone was sort of like a stenographer and took the notes down, wrote down what the gags were. And in some cases there, what I think became important was there was going to be performers or whatever, Rich Little or whoever, do it later, that they would come up sort of with premises or areas. Okay, here's a funny way to talk about, Iran Gate or, whatever, the running of the guns out of the basement of the White House, etc., or whatever what whole thing was with Ollie North and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
So you just it was that kind of thing, I think, where there was more a generation of areas and premises and so forth, sort of to be refined later.
Yeah.
But and then that's it. I think there was some beer in the room, and then and we were there for about 4 hours, and
it must have been.
That was it. And he gave everybody a copy of his previous album.
Okay.
And I had him autograph it to my parents. because they had, of us having enjoyed as a family this thing, and I wanted so much for them to have that and to tag that we, that I had gone to Hollywood and caught up with this guy.
Of course, yeah. God,
but all that
so
stuff
good,
can
though.
be, that's the thing about Los Angeles. Eventually, everybody is out here somewhere. I mean, if you want to hunt them down, you can. Your own trek for Gore Vidal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's true. It didn't take nearly as much effort as you would think.
Yeah, you would think that it would be so difficult, and and then it turns out sometimes a lot of these people they want to talk to people.
Yeah.
They'd like some company.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then you forget that Gore Vidal's just as much of a camera whore as you are, and it's fine. And it's like, oh, great, cool, I'll come on. No insult to the late man. He was wonderful and awesome.
Right.
Very nice guy. But yeah, no, I mean, that's the one thing about being out here and then we don't talk about that often. And one of the reasons I do this podcast is to meet my heroes or meet people who've worked on stuff I love. And, who knows, maybe one day work with those people. Hint, hint, people who've been on the show before. But holy crap! I'm just realizing. I'm sorry, but Robin, what's his name? I'm assuming
Robin's
that's
his
him.
last
Alan
name.
Robin. Yeah. So he looks like Rich Summer from Mad Men. It's weirding me out. He's got the chin and the nose.
Yeah, that would have been the time too.
And it's perfect time.
But now look here. I'll tell you what. Look
Yeah.
at his sideburns. Now see, they're not anything.
Sure.
By today's
Those are pretty
standards.
Yeah.
I mean, you're more hirsute than this dude.
That's true.
But I'm saying that was a cool guy.
Of course.
These are cool guys.
Of course. No,
This is what cool guys look like.
I'm
back.
digging Dad's goatee. Did he still have?
Yeah.
You said that's pretty
Yeah, he
great.
had it when I knew him.
Just looking on the back, you can see how boisterous of a human he was. Just in that photo alone, like that's that's insane.
I mean, I think that these guys sort of felt like if you just start talking and cracking jokes, no matter how terrible, old, and bad, that was McCormick. McCormick would really kind of crash into a funny idea more often than not. He just would keep talking until he hit something.
Of course,
and it was really very impressive. But he knew that was the job, and especially as I say on these things where you're trying to generate patter for TV hosts and so forth, you just kind of we would just keep talking and because when you come back in from a commercial break or something and someone says, okay, we're back at and then they can say the show that doodly doodly doodly, now that can be a gag, and that can be anything.
Yeah,
it can be anything that because once TV of that sort was cut up into those pieces. The ultimate thing, of course, was Laughing, where there was no concern for narrative whatsoever.
Right.
If they had anything ever, it was when they would have people like Nixon and so forth on, and then they would sort of wait until maybe the second half hour to bring them out. Yeah. And that's like suspense, I guess. But other than that, Laughing was a completely deconstructed. And so are any of these, if you watch them, syndicated or cable stand-up shows, because it's, okay, now this guy. All right, that was that guy. Now this guy. All right, that was that guy. Now this guy. There is no, you're not going anywhere or telling a story or climbing up a staircase to some sort of, deity of comedy who will be at the top sitting in a throne.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And will say, and now, the funniest joke ever in the history of comedy.
Right.
Yeah. You don't get that. It's just this bop, bop. It's just stuff, and then we're done.
Which is hard because somebody like myself, when before I ever came out here, I was probably much more high-minded about comedy because I hadn't done it professionally, and you sort of forget that it's a craft and it's a trade and it's not entirely different from planing a board. You know what I mean? you know what I'm saying? It's much less backbreaking, but it's still a thing that you do, and it's not necessary. You're not there. What a wonderful job I'm doing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not. What a great thing I'm about to do for the American people. That's not how your brain works once you're actually working in comedy.
I think that's funny on a number of different levels, what you just said. But first of all, planing a board seems like you must have had that thought on a night when it really was not going very well. And first you aligned yourself with people who had been sacrificed unfairly in the world. So you came up with Jesus, who was a carpenter. And then you saw him planing a cross or perhaps a mast for a boat. and then that became your metaphor for all jobs where you're dying or you're tanking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. That's good. That's good. No, I'm doing a little bit of consulting right now. With what happened was a friend of mine has a talent agency, and I don't want to say where because then you'll start tracking the people, and then you'll know that we've been involved with them or whatever. But what we're doing basically is consulting comedians and trying to bring them. You basically get involved with them and try to make them realize their goals faster and sooner.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that it can happen in any way, but I also think if people who are in management. So my friend has a management agency, and then I'm sort of coming in as the old hand who says, this, the other thing, put on a decent shirt, etc. And so I was that's been a lot on my mind lately. And one of the things, again, going back to your sort of, it's a job, disposability. But here's something I'd love to talk to you about, which is there apparently a lot of stand-up comics or people who want to be stand-up comics who are doing it are torn a little bit about whether they are alternative or not.
Okay.
And it seems to me undetermined what the identifying parameters of alternative are.
Our next guest is the governor of New York. Governor, it might interest you to know that you are our first interview today.
I can't imagine a more auspicious start.
You are governor of the most complex and powerful state in the Union. Could you tell us what are the duties of the governor of the state of New York?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Well, in that connection, sir, just how often do you actually go to your office?
Annually.
I mean, if I was to be funny with you in our little taped dialogue here, I could make some sort of snarky cracks about what constitutes alternative.
Sure.
Sure. But that doesn't get us anywhere. Mm-hmm. So then it sort of is like this thing that suddenly arises. It also comes up if you say it is. If you say it's alternative comedy, then it sort of is, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it seems like what's going on. So again, this phenomena has happened more recently than since I quit doing stand-up. So I don't know of it personally, but it seems like comics are under duress about whether or not they're alternative enough.
Yeah.
And it seems crazy to me, and yet I get it because I think that there are similar things that happen with okay, so this band's not a hip band anymore because for one thing, their CDs are on special at Target and Walmart. Maroon 5, classic example. Maroon 5, they're not a hip band because they sell too many records or there's nothing hip about their music. Well, then let's now hear a CD from an alternative rock band.
Right.
Wow, that sounds a lot like early Maroon 5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't... So, what are your... You have any thoughts on this?
Sort of. Only because only did a few years because I've never done stand-up and, grew up in upstate New York. So my perspective on comedy was whatever's funny is good. Although I got snobby a bit in college, as everybody does. But I had never heard of alternative comedy until a couple years ago. And while I sort of saw the delineation... where it seemed to be the people who were quote-unquote alternative comics were just a little extra snarky and a little extra ironic without having...
Well, it seems like you reference show business a lot.
Yeah.
That's one thing that you do.
That's definitely true.
And by doing so, act like you're not interested in being involved with it. Mm-hmm. And so I guess for a reference on that, we'd have to talk to Patton Oswalt, who's been in 12 major motion pictures
and
half a dozen television shows and co-starring as almost Dukes of Hazzard type sheriff in one of them, etc. So I don't know how alternative that is. And again, I don't say it as I'm not trying to hurt anybody here.
No.
I think Patton Oswalt's one of the funniest people on earth.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure what it.
I think they really thought, as most generations of comics do, that they're really bucking the system and that there's something new, and therefore they're like, you know what? Nobody's ever come up with a different type of comedy. It's just been comedy or stand-up comedy. Let's call ourselves something different, and that'll make us really feel like we're separate. And I think it is just that might be the prime delineation, is like you said, just calling yourself alternative. I'm not going to say there wasn't a different atmosphere about it, because there is, but I don't know exactly what that is.
I'm not sure that they do either. This is the thing. If you have even 3 defining elements, it seems like you can get to some sense of a scene. And I think there's always been scenes in L.A.
Sure.
I mean, I would argue that if somebody's had a jazz club, there was probably always, with jazz clubs, there was always probably jazz clubs that were well managed, so they were neat and clean, and the drinks and possibly some food were good. And then there's like, oh, you got to go see this new place. Everybody gets to play whatever they want to play, and it's in a basement, and the chairs are off of an old aircraft carrier or whatever. And it's just so. I think there's always a scene. You can always create a scene, and then maybe people unify in a sort of Three Musketeers kind of mentality of we are the, But Sarah Silverman, I believe, was alternative at some point. Yeah. And now she does a chewing gum commercial where her teeth sparkle in animation. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that any one thing suddenly makes you not alternative or edgy or interesting or whatever. I would say after a certain number of chewing gum commercials, maybe you're less interesting than you were. I don't know. But it does. I'm working with a guy who's, I think, is actually a little stressed about such things as, like, I'll say to him, the language in your joke actually matters. This is going to seem so. This is and now you know what we've become. We've just become the click and clack car guys of comedy. If I talk about this next thing, but he has a joke that's about his car is so exotic that he goes in and he says the name of the car, and the guy says, "We don't do bicycles." And all I told him is, just say fix. Just say, we don't fix bicycles. You're there to get your car fixed. Just say fix. Do makes people think of sex, or, just... Sure. So I'm just trying to get him to change this one word, because I think the laugh, when he does it, is about half of what it could be. And it's not a huge joke, but so there. So that to me is, there's stuff like that about doing stand-up. Under any set of conditions. I mean, maybe an alternative, what's important is to somehow sustain an appearance of having made it up that moment, rather than a practiced act that has punchlines and funny facial gestures, and you're not wearing a T-shirt that says something on it, maybe. But anyhow, I don't know. Those distinctions are interesting to me, and it was, and you realize as time has gone on, and we look at these covers of these old LPs, that they're just, I think, for example, Bob Newhart was hip in his day for not trying to be a hip guy.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So he he dressed like he was going to an ad agency to work or something like that, which he did, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then simply by not growing a beard or, right?
Yeah. He stayed. That was him the whole time.
Right. And then
where Carlin dropped it quick,
Well, Carlin did that whole transformational thing, and that mattered to him. And so you realize at the end of the day, it does kind of get back to the artist, So Sarah Silverman may do 20 more gum commercials, but at some point knock us out with a new film written by herself that may really, really, really be good. Yeah.
No, it's
Sarah, you hear us? We're thinking maybe that would be a good idea.
It would be. God, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I am waiting actually to see this generation of comics become like the next generation of auteurs for that kind of thing. I mean, as much as the film landscape is changing, it'd be nice to see one of them do exactly what you're talking about, including her. Because, I mean, her stand-up bits, like her Jesus is Magic, I mean, partially because it was directed by Liam Lynch, who's a fucking genius, is like, it's great. I mean, it's a film, there's little bits, there's pieces, there's music videos within it. It's really solid. And
yeah, I've seen it. I liked it. That's why I brought her up, because I'm a fan of her.
Yeah, she's great. She has one of those voices where you sort of assume it will become something else. But it still blows my mind, because I ask a lot of people who are still stand-ups. I'm like, what? Not just what made you want to do comedy. I don't really care about that, because a lot of people's stories are the same. I mean, I do care, but like, when it comes to people who are still stand-ups, I'm like, what made you think that this was possible to do? Why would you think this was a good idea? And it's not insulting. I'm just like, why do you... Because to me, I love listening to stand-ups. I collected these albums early on. But I'm like, that's not something I would ever do. I don't understand the desire to do it. I even want to act a little bit here and there. But I want to voice act. But stand-up is the one thing... And it's not that it scares me. I just don't understand the impulse to do it.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. But, all right, so first of all, we're moving to the portion of the show now called Pure Conjecture with your hosts, Jason and Steve. And I think, first of all, I think that very key to people feeling right about themselves is the possibility that at any given moment they could be the object of attention in a room. Some people may have an equal or greater desire to never have that be the case, and never want to be, because of the old axiom about public speaking, which is that most people are terrified of public speaking.
Right.
Most people. I don't know if that's changed now, that all of us have become our own little television stations by means of things like Facebook and so forth.
Yeah,
it's possible that was another world where people were afraid of public speaking, and now they're like, oh, how about this is a video of my baby walking. This is the first child ever to walk. Ever. It's never happened before. God, thank God we have video of this.
Right.
So I think there's that. So I think there's a psychological push, and then I can tell you for myself, that it was essentially lazy man's publishing, because you could think of a joke in a car on the way to the club, and do it on stage. And you could listen to the radio on the way to the club, and somebody would on there would go, and this happened today. Whoa, that's pretty crazy. And you could formulate a gag about it. And so you. And if you had 100 people in a room, you would just publish that joke, if you will, to 100 people. And I think that that's why it's not coincidental that later on people go back to writing of some sort who have been stand-ups. Because I think the stand-up part was about an easy form of writing, which was, it's basically published and it's mine the minute I say it in front of 50 to 100 witnesses or whatever the club will hold.
Mr. President, we are honored for this opportunity to visit with you in the midst of your normally busy day in the White House.
I am hopeful that the visit will be helpful.
First, may we extend our congratulations, although it was months ago, on your thundering election victory to the presidency.
This will be for a new 7-year term.
We'll go right on with the questioning now to Mr. Swayze.
Mr. President, as a continuing example of your policies, who in the years to come will be guarding our eastern coast against Russian submarines?
35 Cuban fishermen.
In those days, for myself, some of those shows on weekends would be, some of these places were 200 seats.
Shit, yeah.
So, crazy.
Yeah.
So I think those are possibly some explanations. Out here, of course, everything is, how do I get to the top of the mountain?
Of course.
And then the view, I suppose, about stand-up is, as long as I'm doing sets, it's like I'm auditioning.
Yeah.
Even though the truth is that if you're, standing near the salad bar at the Sizzler on comedy night, I don't know how many industry comps are going to be activated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
do. Yeah.
I mean, I'm always fascinated by that. Now that I do theater, that I write for theater, I'm fascinated by the theory of industry comps.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. We'll need 2 for Mr. Spielberg, and another 2 for Harvey Weinstein. They'll be coming to see my one-person show tonight. So let's make that 3 in case they bring the family. Industry comps.
It's just one of those things that, like, it's funny that, like, I'm scared of that struggle, even though I came out here with no money and had no idea what the fuck I was doing. So it's just, I guess it's a very different type of struggle, and it's just outside my world. But everything you're saying makes perfect sense. It's just weird.
Ultimately, I think out here, you come to see that you are doing something, and you're hopefully working each day in some tiny way to get better at it.
Sure.
And you're working at that thing, and you're trying to get better at the thing that you think that you do, that you like. And there simply will be times when that ability of yours will take you into some rooms, if you will, or
Sure.
take you to this, or take you to some recompense, some money. And there will be other times when it doesn't.
Yeah.
And, I don't... You think sometimes of the earliest days of publishing and so forth, and how people, like a novel, and any of the novels that you and I would call the novels of our life, that books that we cared about.
Yeah.
I suppose classically J.D. Salinger.
Sure.
Sitting there working, and what was the thought? Well, this will go. This will be huge.
Mm-hmm.
And years, people sometimes on a novel. And how do you know? Well, what you know is that the doing of the thing is something that you love at some level, and then the other things will either come or they won't come. And there's really, there's really no point in talking about, what sort of arc things are going to take.
Right.
I've seen people. Rodney Dangerfield was very middle-aged by the time things happened for him.
Mm-hmm.
There are all kinds of similar examples in acting where people had to wait till they became character actors.
Yeah.
And then they would work. They would have a 10-year stretch where they never stopped working.
Yeah.
So to say that there's a plan, or gosh, I'm 30 and it's not happening yet,
Right.
is just, it's kind of baloney. I mean, I don't kid myself that I lucked into in a kind of perfect storm of synergy, which was that just as stand-up comedy was coming to sort of a head or something, with a lot of clubs synergized by cable television showing these people on, and then they're not so much stars, but they're sort of validated by having been on television.
Sure.
So now that they can talk for 40 minutes on a stage. I just lucked into that, and then I lucked into a thing that came after it, which was to use all of that comedy generating talent to be making content for television.
Yeah.
And I just lucked into that. And so I don't know that there's that same sort of exact thing happening right now. I do know that the machinery, I do observe rather, I don't know. I observe that the machinery likes to act as though a new person is like bubbling and they're happening, and soon they'll be, and this is their first movie, and
Yeah.
like these actresses that are very young and are in these things, and they're very good, many of them. The young woman who's in this film now, where they both have cancer.
Oh, yeah. The Fault in Our Stars.
Yes,
I think, yes.
right, and she's great, and I've seen her do other things, and I saw her in The Descendants, of course, and she's really good. So that's fair to write about her. But I mean, what? I don't know. Then if it gets quiet for a while, then what happened?
Yeah.
That's I don't know. So I don't know. I do think that throughout eternity, there was probably, even, back in the Mesozoic or whatever, the mud days with people in caves sitting around campfires and stuff, there's probably one guy who told a hilarious story about killing a bear with a rock or something, and that guy was probably, he was probably there all week. I'll be at the cave all week. And So in some ways, I don't think, there'll always be some means of executing comedy.
Yeah.
I guess.
Sure.
I don't know about the thing about internet videos is what is the ratio of them to ones that end up having any kind of phenomena of viewing?
I know, that's the thing, is they're starting to level out. Whereas, like, in an era where the First Family could, over the course of its actual selling lifespan, sell 7 million albums and blow most other comedy albums except for Bob Newhart's out of the water, you're seeing, there are one or two that are hitting, multiple millions, then billions of views. And then you're seeing other people who are maybe completely unknown to portions of the country, but because they have a fan base of about 150,000 people, seems to be the weird magic number, around 120, 150,000, they have a career based off of that. So it's getting less and less about having the most, but having just enough.
Right.
Yeah, I'm noticing that anyway. Like, the people I'm really big fans of, I'm like, they must have just millions of followers. And I'm like, no, it's around 150,000. Like, which is great.
But
That's
at that point,
amazing.
you can monetize.
Yes.
I wanted to get that word in there because I so love the sound of it, and it should probably be a song title for Madonna, I'm guessing. But at that point, you can monetize.
That's how it seems, yeah.
You can get ads, and then you have that many eyeballs that are watching the ads,
Exactly.
and you can argue that the ad. See, because that fascinates me. Is I just don't know how. I don't know what the metrics are on internet advertising. I don't know that anybody does. I mean,
yeah.
It seems like you could turn it on or turn it off at any given time, and the results would be about the same.
Right.
I'm sure that there's a whole thing with films that's probably critical.
Yeah. The other thing is it's a quantity issue, too, is because you have to just keep pumping it out. There are these two guys named Rhett and Link who do really great videos. I've never not liked one of their videos. These two guys from the South who have been doing commercials. They now have a podcast. They have 3 channels on YouTube that all have hundreds of thousands and then millions of views and stuff. And, like, they just have to keep pumping stuff out. Whereas, like, again, I don't mean to get too nostalgic, but you spent so much time and effort on pumping out this one thing that is going to represent what, the thing that you want to say,
right.
Or just the, the laughs that you got that night in this case, because this is all live stuff that they played. And I don't know, you're taking more chances. You're not taking as many chances online. And I don't know what I'm saying when I say that, but that's one thing that I kind of miss, is that, like, hit or miss, this stuff there's a lot of, it's commitment on vinyl, it's
right.
Right.
Well, and there was on these particular Earl Dowd and Alan Robin pieces, for example, there's a capturing of a moment in history that probably has some value. I mean,
Sure.
For example, this artwork on the top here
is great.
You folks can't see it at home, but it's the two of them playing chess, and then on top of the chess pieces are the heads of Everett Dirksen. Anybody? Who can identify Everett Dirksen in a lineup that includes 3 other character actors who played butlers in movies in the 40s?
Senator, if we can look ahead for just a moment, do you think your brother Teddy will one day be president?
If he wants to join me and where I'm going, I'd be glad to have him along.
Well, then, if I correctly interpret what you've just said, when would you like to be president?
Now,
Well, I think it can't be done that quickly.
1965, 1966.
No, obviously you can't run for president until 1968.
I don't think that's fair.
Nixon, Johnson, Lady Bird, Eisenhower, which like people, I don't know. And so what I'm saying is they capture a moment in time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe that's the advantage to YouTube, is you don't have to commit so much time to doing something that's topical and doesn't sort of gather dust after a while. On a shelf.
Maybe there's something. There's an even bigger thing to what you just said, which is it does seem like a lot of comedy videos or videos with comedy content. Let's say that, because some are funny and some are not, but they have an intended comedy content. They are more about sort of like perennial human behavior quirks,
Sure.
or mishaps in dating, or something, than they are about anything very topical.
Sure.
I mean, I don't even know, for example, if there's that many comedy videos that make fun of cell phones. Maybe because people who are making comedy videos use cell phones and don't presume anything to be funny about them, you know,
Or have seen it done.
or their
'cause,
own
you know,
behavior, or have seen it. Yeah, right. But there's a lot of stuff that's just about I don't, just like human frustration, or being bullied by some element in society. In other words, not the news.
Right.
So I don't know whether that's good, bad, or otherwise. I've sometimes wondered if my generation, which was roughly John Stewart's. Here you go. Here's a little name dropping. He rented my apartment after I moved down to New York. Looked at it once and went, "This is great." And I think it was because that day they had seen so much Drek that they just. And I was actually subleasing it. I'm not really sure how it worked out. I'm not sure why I was helping him find a place to live. But anyhow, at that time he was just a really funny comic, and I would just, run into him at the cellar in the Village, Bongos, and anyhow, but I've had a concern. You tell me your thoughts on this. That there was such a not sudden, but there was a quick, fast-moving effort to make jokes out of news that started at a certain point, wherever you want to say that it started, and then just has kept going. And I wondered if somehow that hasn't made comedians of my generation in some ways responsible for the decay of what we're getting in terms of representation and so forth.
Yeah.
In Washington, and the whole attitude. And I mean, did we somehow cause them to think that because we wanted to make something theatrical out of what they did, they should just go ahead themselves and do the theatrics? And now we have, all of this grandstanding and thumping of chests and so forth, and no legislation, no activity, no nothing getting through Congress or Senate, no anything.
Yeah.
And someone perceiving that their political agenda is to be just against the president. That's their to-do list.
Yes.
Here's what I will do. The things I will do will be to just talk about how somebody else is actually doing things and tear them down about it. And I just wondered if we don't carry some responsibility. Hang on, I'm sure that's nobody. Oh, that's probably Bill Maher telling me to go to hell. So, what happens is that are you like me? Are you on the don't call list, but the phone keeps ringing with people that want to clean your carpet? Or,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, political stuff too. Lots of political ads.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, that's I didn't mean for that to be a downbeat note, but it has occurred to me. I mean, if you have, for example, and then you have Fox News, which is the weirdest thing of being completely theatrical, but unfunny, unentertaining, and seemingly not ever pretending or acting like they are aware of their theatrical bullshittiness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's not even Orwellian. You know, that's like if Orwell had another dumber brother, who he would have written like 1985, a book called 1985, in which there was a Fox News type entity that, you know, that was just clowns. I don't know, but somehow it feels like as much as we take joy in Jon Stewart and The Daily Show going after Fox News, that Fox News and The Daily Show need each other.
Sure.
And use each other and position themselves by not either one being the other thing.
Yeah.
And that becomes some sort of fiesta of something in the larger theater of life.
I don't doubt it. I mean, no sitting president needs to go on The Daily Show, and it's happened. No, I mean, Nixon and didn't have to try and get the Smothers Brothers off the air. He certainly did, most likely.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those. They're definitely aware of this shit. I mean, it's different then, of course, because there are fewer channels. So it's obvious. Like one of your 3 channels in your entire household has these 2 fucking hippies telling your president he's a piece of shit without saying it, and doing it with a grin and still playing their wonderful, pretty music. It's definitely different. But you know, the loudest spoken of them are. They know that they're going to get airtime. I mean, there are people who will go on The Daily Show knowing full well that a Daily Show is going to edit them into saying stupid shit just so that they can be on there and that people are aware that there's somebody out there talking about this issue.
Right.
People are more than willing, so there's no doubt that shit feeds off each other. And I see what you're saying, though, the idea that maybe it's gotten more theatrical. I think you're very right. You know.
Well, I was one of the jobs that I had was an effort by the people who at HBO who had created not necessarily the news. They were essentially going to create a version of it for prime time for ABC, and it would play as a half hour, and and it was called This Just In, and it was the same thing. It was manipulation of it. You basically made insert shots. You had a piece of well, this was one of mine. You had a piece of Prince, who's the Queen's husband. Prince Albert?
Let's say that.
It's not Albert. Is it Albert?
I can't remember who it's supposed to be.
We can't. Anyhow, the Queen's husband, he's sitting at a table at an elaborate thing, and she's talking, and he's at a table, and you can see he's moving his hand a little bit on something on a table. And we cut in a shot, and it was a toy car. And he's going vroom, 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 like that. That's it. Okay, that was the level of hijinks. That was This Just In.
Yeah.
So... sight gags and visual gags like that. But where I was going was that it's shown. I think they made 2 half hours of it, and they were both shown either back to back to make an hour or something over the course of in prime time, like in the summer, to try it out. Anyhow, the ratings were so. Even though there is this proliferation now, what the Smothers Brothers did is they tried to be in prime time, and then they were on Sunday night, and they had established that before they kind of decided they wanted to talk about more relevant things. They had established a kind of beachhead in Sunday. Had you moved them to Friday at Tonight Show hours, and they had agreed to that, but then I think why would they give up that piece of prime time real estate that was becoming important in terms of everything. So the more that there was pressure on them to not do what they were doing, the more so it all what I'm getting to is I still wonder if that's the case. We still don't want it in prime time. We don't want at 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. There isn't going to be, excuse me. There isn't going to be a Daily Show.
Yeah,
it's going to come later.
Yeah,
against the news, like they played in this town.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and I imagine nationally. So. So I don't know, and then yet in the day of these things, and then the day of Bob Newhart, and Bob Newhart was that stuff did occur in prime time, and Jack Parr having Woody Allen or whatever. That did occur in prime time.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's something about you can go this far, but you can't go that far.
Uh-huh.
I don't. something about the hour of the day.
Yeah.
And if the sun's been down for a few hours, it's okay to suggest that your government is run by buffoons.
This is an interesting bedroom. Is this the bedroom where you and the president sleep?
Yes, war was declared twice in this room.
One thing I've noticed, the walls are covered with fine paintings, but why do all these great masterpieces have mustaches penciled onto them?
Could you say no to the president?
I always try to make sure to ask people if they've never heard of this album, and I'm certain a lot of people haven't. Why should they listen to it? Why is it? What's a good reason to listen to this if they haven't heard any Earl Dowd or if they just haven't heard it? What's a good reason? What's a strong argument?
I think that again we were talking about a certain maybe naive time in America where there was almost a sweetness to the barbs here. These are gentle barbs.
Definitely.
These are gentle barbs. My recollection is there's not a lot of really funny Vietnam references.
Nope, not. I don't think a one.
The references are to things domestic. So you're not gonna do that because that's actually something people found not funny in its day. So that's educational.
Yeah.
To see that was happening, and that people were sort of putting a box or a blanket over Vietnam, which is again what the Smothers Brothers would not do. They would not pretend that event wasn't going on. And so to put all that together is to, I think, develop a wider and better understanding. All right, so this is, now I just built sort of a historical argument. From just a purely comic standpoint, then I think that there's sort of sweet, these records. They're jokey.
Yeah.
They're jokey jokes. And that, I think, is educational, too, because jokey jokes are still with us. That's the thing that irritates the hell out of me out of morning zoo radio, where there's Carol and then there's Sam and they're getting it together in the morning, and they just start, they start talking about something that's in the news, and then they keep drilling until they accidentally or otherwise hit a gag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're supposed to sit in your car and drive and wait for them to do that.
Yeah.
When somebody could write something for them.
Yeah.
Say this. Here, say this. This will be funny if you say this way that I wrote it on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
See, that's a job. I think there's a hole for the funny morning zoo, an actual, like a witty morning zoo show instead of, and sound effects and, the toilet flushing. And
there was a time when people wouldn't go on the air if they didn't have a fucking writer, if they didn't have a script sitting in front of them, because they're like,
terrified.
Fuck that, I want to be funny.
Well, radio, that when radio was presumed to be something that you had to shape, and part of that was the almost fascist way that the sponsors controlled the content. But say what you will about that, at least it meant the content was getting paid attention to.
Right.
Then
freedom of speech later on gets used as an excuse to just say whatever the fuck you want and maybe not be funny, maybe not be relevant, maybe not have any taste.
Well, I think
I'm not anti-freedom of speech, don't get me wrong, but No,
you and I are both probably in the same place here, which is just don't waste my time.
Yeah.
I mean, don't waste my time. And don't tell me that you two giggling like hyenas means it's funny. That's the other thing, too, is they try to self-lubricate what they're doing by you say something and you laugh, and then the people at home will go, I guess that's funny. And, he just called somebody a fat this, I guess that's funny. I guess that's comedy. But it's, and then stunt phone calls to people.
Right.
Hi, I'm not really this person.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, come on, just write. Just have like departments. Just do, let me ask you, are we almost?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at the end here, okay, Jimmy Fallon, comedy, Seth Meyers, alternative comedy, as we were discussing before. Is it?
It's a good question.
I don't know. Here's what I like about Seth Meyers. He seems to enjoy a silly joke.
Sure.
As much as one that isn't silly.
Yep.
And then a lot of the desk pieces are sort of, in some ways, more interesting to me for their conception or their idea than the jokes that are inside of them.
Yeah. Yeah. By nature, that time slot is the experimental time slot, and I guess you get to polish your stuff. And of course, only reason I feel really bad for Seth Meyers because it's not like he's ever going to get the Tonight Show. He's the same age as Jimmy Fallon. Like, they're not. He's never going to ascend. What's he going to do after that? Maybe his own thing. But
well, he could. A lot of times, people who get territory in late night are then able to produce from it.
Sure,
and Letterman did, and was involved in, among other things. Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, right.
And that just became... So he has a company because he has that territory. And CBS also gave him Ferguson's show as a thing to produce, as territory. So he has that now, too. And that could now turn into something that maybe gets a little more attention. What are they going to do there? They don't know yet what
they don't
they're
know.
There.
They haven't talked about it. Because the big news has just been Colbert taking over for Letterman. That's the thing that's swept everybody away.
Yeah.
They don't care, which is too bad because Craig Ferguson's a funny guy. He's a funny dude,
Well, he may be a man out of time. Has that ever occurred to you that that if it were 1974, he would be the hippest guy on TV?
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt
and
that.
I don't mean that his jokes or his demeanor or anything are out of time. They're great. He's great.
Yeah,
I do. When I commit to watch him and just let him go. And so forth, I do enjoy him, but yeah, he would have been with TV and late night, especially being still a newer, younger thing. I think he could have been much more heralded.
Yeah.
And then there's this. Sometimes having a kind of boutique television show isn't the worst thing in the world.
No.
This is how people.
Amazing.
I think. Let me ask you that if certain animated things on like Adult Swim, things that are in Adult Swim, if those were suddenly tomorrow magically hugely popular, would it ruin it for everybody?
It's a good question.
You see what I'm saying?
I would hope.
Like part of what makes it work is it's Adult Swim and nobody watches this. It's late and it's on at 11:14 or some weird thing, and I'm the only one who knows about this series where the cat box talks to the refrigerator or whatever,
I'd watch that.
Yeah, you would. I just pitched it.
It's good. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
maybe.
So what I'm saying is ultimately, hang on, I got to let the dog out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It becomes, there you go. Enjoy. I think she was like, at an hour, he's my master. I'll listen to him go on for an hour. But then at an hour 5, I'm out. Yeah, that having a boutique spot, maybe isn't such a bad thing. Like if the TV series Fargo or something were to get the same numbers as any of the big CBS shows or something like that, would that change it? Would that make a difference? Mad Men, which is talked about enormously, but really doesn't have. It has barely 2 million, right?
Something like that.
Something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say because the more attention, the more money you get, the more potential there is for it to change you and change how you approach it, and maybe then it loses what made it interesting in the first place. I don't know.
Yeah,
it could be.
Yeah.
Well, you've made your argument for the album. Normally, I ask people to plug themselves on Twitter and all that crap, but I know you don't give a shit about Twitter.
Well, I don't. The only thing I can keep up with is Facebook, And I'm not sure. My attitude about it seems to change from day to day. One day, somebody said, "Well, it's just a big it's the bulletin board that used to be up at the grocery store.
Sure. Yep.
Lawnmower for sale. Has anybody seen my kid? Has anybody seen my dog? Has anybody seen my mother? Has anybody, it used to be that.
Yeah.
And now it's this. But there are certain things that I do find fascinating. The other day, I posted a picture. And it was just the moon out in the desert when we were out in the desert. And I thought, well, now they own that. Or something. Or they can do whatever they want with that.
It's true.
So I don't put any pictures with humans in them because I don't, I don't want to suddenly show up in a commercial for mothballs or something, Yes, it's camphorific, says Steve Stajich. What? He does? When did I say that?
Well, this has been fun. Thank you for doing this. Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody, thank you for listening. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. Please visit stolendress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, and if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. You can find us on facebook.com/comedyonvinyl, Twitter @comedyonvinyl, and find everything else at comedyonvinyl.com.